I couldn't believe what I saw on my home security camera. Our HOA president was screaming at my wife. Then she pulled out a gun and fired at our newborn baby. She had no clue I'd spent 20 years wearing a sheriff's badge. She had no clue who she just messed with. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment with where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that will leave you speechless. Never thought I'd see my wife beg for our baby's life through a camera screen. But that's exactly what happened the day our HOA president pointed a gun at my 3-day-old daughter. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know I'd spent 20 years wearing a badge, putting away people exactly like her. That was her biggest mistake. Because when you shoot at a sheriff's family, it stops being an accident. It becomes war. My name's David Miller. For 20 years, I was county sheriff. I'd seen evil in all its shapes, thieves, killers, abusers. But I still believed in justice. When I retired, I thought I'd finally found peace, a quiet life. A fresh start with my wife Sarah and our newborn Emma. We'd just moved into Maplewood Heights, a perfect little neighborhood with white fences, neat lawns, and smiling neighbors. At least that's what it looked like on the outside. But underneath that perfect picture was a rot named Karen Hutchkins, the HOA president. Karen wasn't just strict, she was obsessed. Wrong color of flowers. Violation. Mailbox 2 inches off? Fine. Car tire over the driveway line? Warning. Every week, a new complaint taped to my door. I'd paid her fines, followed her rules, tried to be civil. But she always wanted more control. Sarah, recovering from her C-section, told me to ignore her. "She'll get bored," she said softly. "People like her always do." But Karen wasn't just any neighbor with too much time. She was the kind of person who needed to be feared to feel important. 3 days after we brought baby Emma home, it was a warm, quiet afternoon. Sarah wanted to take Emma out for her first walk. She was glowing, proud, still weak, but determined. I watched her through my office window as she carefully pushed the stroller down the driveway. It was the most beautiful sight I'd ever seen. And then I saw Karen's black SUV speeding down the street. My stomach dropped. She slammed her brakes right in front of our house and jumped out with her clipboard like a weapon. I could already tell from her body language something was wrong. I left my desk heading toward the door when I heard her voice through the walls. "Your stroller is blocking the sidewalk." "That's a violation!" Sarah tried to stay calm. "It's not blocking anything, Karen. Please lower your voice." "You're scaring my baby." Emma started crying, her tiny wail piercing through the afternoon air. But Karen didn't care. Her voice rose, sharp and venomous. "I don't care about your baby. The rules are the rules." That was when my training kicked in. The tone, the posture, the shaking hands. I'd seen it before in people about to snap. I opened the front door. "Ma'am, please step back," I said, using the same calm authority I used to de-escalate armed standoffs. But she just turned on me, eyes wild. "Oh, the big retired sheriff thinks he can break the rules," she shouted. "You think you're above everyone else?" I stepped closer slowly. "Karen, my wife just gave birth. She's healing. There's no violation here." Her face turned purple. Veins bulged in her neck. "That stroller is 3 inches over the sidewalk line," she screamed. 3 inches! I measured it. She grabbed the stroller handle and yanked. Sarah gasped, stumbling forward. Pain flashed across her face as she clutched her stomach. "Please stop!" "Let go!" I shouted, sprinting. But Karen yanked again, harder. The stroller tilted. Sarah fell to her knees, crying out in pain. "Karen, step away now!" But she wasn't listening. Her hand went into her purse. And when it came back out, she was holding a silver handgun. For 1 second, time froze. Her hand shook. Her voice was trembling, yet furious. "No one disrespects me," she screamed. "No one!" I raised my hands. "Karen, put it down. Please, you don't want to do this." She ignored me. "I'll show you people what happens when you break the rules." I started moving to shield Sarah and Emma. "Karen, look at me," I said, trying to draw her attention away from them. "I'm the one you're mad at." "Leave them alone." Her eyes locked on mine. For a second, I thought I'd gotten through. And then, Emma cried again. That tiny, helpless sound broke whatever sanity she had left. "Shut that baby up," she shrieked. Her arm swung toward the stroller. "No!" I dove forward, but I was too far. 3 shots exploded in rapid succession. The sound ripped through the peaceful neighborhood. Sarah screamed. I tackled Karen, knocking the gun away, pinning her to the ground. But her laughter was what I'll never forget. She broke the rules, she said, giggling like a maniac. Rules are rules. I left her on the pavement and ran to the stroller. Blood. Sarah was sobbing, shaking. She shot Emma. Oh my God, she shot Emma! My world stopped. I looked down. Emma was crying, her tiny arm bleeding, her onesie stained red. I ripped my shirt off and pressed it to her wound. Stay with me, baby girl. You're okay. Daddy's here. Neighbors came running. Someone called 911. The sirens arrived minutes later, though to me it felt like hours. At the hospital, Emma was rushed into emergency surgery. The bullet had grazed her shoulder and fractured the bone. Another round hit the stroller wheel. If it had been 2 inches higher, she wouldn't have survived. Sarah's stitches had torn open. They operated on her, too. I sat between 2 hospital rooms covered in my daughter's blood, feeling helpless for the first time in decades. When my old deputy, Tom Jackson, called me, his voice was tight. David, we've got Karen in custody. She's claiming self-defense, says she was attacked. I closed my eyes. There were witnesses, Tom. She pulled a gun on my wife and baby. I know. 5 of them. We've got her dead to rights, but her lawyer's already talking about mental health, stress, diminished capacity. Of course she was. People like her always had excuses. Days passed. Emma survived. The doctors said she'd have scars, but she'd live. Sarah wasn't the same, though. She'd wake up screaming from nightmares, shaking, begging me to make sure the doors were locked. She blamed herself for not protecting Emma. I told her she did everything right. But guilt doesn't listen to reason. Meanwhile, I started digging. I wasn't sheriff anymore, but I still knew how to find the truth. Turns out Karen had a history. 2 prior assault arrests, both dropped. Multiple HOA complaints in other towns. 1 lawsuit claiming she poisoned a neighbor's dog. Everywhere she went, she destroyed lives and walked away untouched. I gathered it all. Every record, every statement. Handed it to the DA. My old friend, Linda Martinez, looked at the file and said, "This shows a pattern. It'll destroy her insanity defense." But David, even then, she might only get 20 years. 15 with good behavior. 15 years. My daughter would barely be an adult when her shooter walked free. The trial was brutal. Sarah had to testify. She could barely speak through tears. The defense tried to twist everything. You admit you blocked the sidewalk? The lawyer asked. Objection! The DA shouted, but I could see some jurors wondering. That's how the system works. You plant doubt and watch it grow. When it was my turn, I told them everything. How she'd harassed us, how she pulled the gun, how my daughter's blood soaked my hands. Karen took the stand, crying. She said she didn't remember anything, that the stress of being HOA president broke her, that she was on medication now, that she'd never hurt anyone again. It was all an act. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury came back, guilty, on all counts. When the judge read her sentence, 25 years, no parole for 20, I felt Sarah collapse against me, sobbing. For the first time since that day, I let myself breathe. But peace doesn't come easy. The nightmares still came. The fear lingered. We moved out of Maplewood Heights into the country. No HOA, no neighbors close enough to care where we parked or what flowers we planted. On Emma's first birthday, she took her first steps. Her little scar shone faintly under her shirt, but she was strong, laughing, alive. Sarah cried watching her walk. I did too. We started the Emma Miller Foundation to help victims of HOA abuse. We pushed for reforms, laws, and accountability. We made sure Karen's violence wouldn't be in vain. Years later, when I got the call that her appeal had been denied, I felt something release inside me. Emma was 3, coloring in the living room. Sarah was humming softly in the kitchen. I told her, it's over. She's staying in prison. She smiled, eyes glistening. Then maybe now, we can finally live. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, I looked at her sleeping face and whispered, "You're safe, baby girl." Daddy kept his promise. Karen thought she was above the law. She thought power gave her permission to destroy lives. But justice caught up with her, because justice always does. And that's the story of how a 3-inch sidewalk violation turned into a nightmare, and how love, courage, and the law turned it into victory.